Welcome to the live stream. It is Keith. Let me know if everything sounds good. It looks like we got good audio. Let me know if it's loud enough for you. So I made a couple changes in the studio over the last couple weeks, and I just don't want it to be too low. I think that is where we should be right there. So let me know in the chat. We see some great people with us tonight. So hopefully more people are going to join us. If you actually are listening live and it's Tuesday, the end of February, we're about to wrap another month. So I welcome you. It's going to be a great live stream. Lots of things releasing in our streaming world. It seems like every springtime, it's a scramble to not only understand what's happening, but also wrap our heads around what is happening. And so let's just go through the chat here real quick. And first of all, let me put it on the air. Looks like everything is working. Again, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe, and then you can chat after a minute. And then if you don't like the stuff you're hearing tonight or don't want to have a conversation with the rest of us, then don't worry about subscribing. You could unsubscribe. I just have that enabled. That way we don't have a bunch of spam happening during the live stream, because I do want to cover these things. I do want to have a conversation. This is not a one-sided event, and I'm very excited about that. We are going to talk about the why tonight. And if you didn't see the still image, let me pop that back up on the screen. And so I really want to talk about the why. So we know what Blackmagic Design is doing right now. And there is a why that kind of comes from Blackmagic, but also the decisions that I'm making here in the studio. I want to talk about that why. Now, I've talked about the why in the past, but I want to talk about the why again tonight. And because it's not just a one-dimensional thing, it is a multi-dimensional thing. It's one of the things that motivates people to live stream, and some people it may not motivate them to live stream. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to also talk about some of the things that I heard in the announcement from Blackmagic Design. And this is news to you. Blackmagic Design introduced some new equipment. We're going to talk about that in a minute after we kind of get through the introduction here. So again, chat on the air. Let me take this one down and say hi to some people here. See if I can get my mouse over here where it needs to be. So back up here, first come, first serve. It looks like Joe is in the house. It's good to have you, see Joe. And you have a question here, and I will try to address this. This is a great question. I do have a video here on some macros. So I would need a little bit more information. So we'll talk about this later. I hope you'll hang out with us for a while. Because I do want to get to some of the conversation tonight before we get into a lot of Q&A. So I just do want to say hi and recognize that I did see your question. And then I did get an email from Hank tonight that he could not make it. So hi to Hank. Also, Hank wanted me to say a few things. He got stuck with his new Extreme ATEM Mini Extreme, decided because of evidently things that he learned here on the channel and other places to go ahead and pull the trigger and get an Extreme. And so we got to do a free consult. I do offer a free 1-hour consult. And so I was able actually to answer most of his questions. Super excited. We went a little over an hour. He wanted me just to say that tonight, and because he couldn't be here. And thank you so much for the super chat. That's probably the biggest super chat I've ever had. And so thank you very much. And he sent me the email of what he wanted me to share. So there you go. He wanted to let you guys know that he had a great one-on-one with me Zoom call. So again, if you want to know more about that, you can check out my channel. I'll put a link in the description. Actually, it's my website, lifejourneyproductions.com. And again, I do a 1-hour consult mainly for live streaming tech. There's a couple other areas that I might do that with, but primarily that 1-hour free consult that I talk about here on the live stream is really to do with some of the things that we talk about here, live streaming, the technology. And I don't know everything about all the technology out there. I'm actually learning about new technology. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Then also Doug popped in tonight. Thank you so much, Doug, for being here. And Then we have Bill. Bill said he hasn't been on time for a while, so congratulations, Bill. Everybody give Bill a hand for being here on time. And obviously, you can watch this later, but if you want to engage in the conversation, then you need to be on live. And I will do Q&A. If there's anything kind of you see right now that you're curious about, you can go ahead and ask me. We are going to dive into tonight's topic, which is the big announcement by Blackmagic Design. And then I'm going to talk about what it's going to change as far as what I'm thinking with my 2 extreme ISOs. And many of you know the last couple weeks I've been talking about that. Not really going to dive in that tonight. I am operating 2 extreme ISOs. My main one is streaming and recording right now. You can see it right here behind me. It's recording and it's also streaming at 6 megabytes and a few there 16 average. So again, 2 HyperDecks hooked up together, but Blackmagic throws a monkey wrench into the tools that we had, and they add new tools, and we are going to talk about that after we get done saying hi. Good to see you, Joe, and Tech for Fun is his channel, and so good to see you. He also has Blue Iris channel as well, way over my head, but there are some people that are in the lives each week that have their own channels. So go ahead and explore, check them out, befriend each other, and start this community to be more than just us chatting in a live stream, but go ahead and engage their channels as well. As always, Freddie, it's very good to see you and talk to you, obviously off camera as well through email, and welcome from Venezuela. It's always good to have you with me, Freddie. And let's see if I can figure out what is going on here. I brought my keyboard, just so you guys know, I brought my keyboard over. I'm going to move it out of my way right now because it makes it really hard for me to manage the chat. So I'm going to move that out of my way, and we're going to continue going down here. It's good to see you, Tony. As always, great to have you. Tony has a channel, so get on over there and check out his stuff. Tony's kind of somewhere in between some of the really technical IT channels, which are very important for many of you. And then Tony has kind of more a simplified channel, at least for me. So I really enjoy it. And so that's really exciting for me. So check that channel out as well. And you'll learn about IT, lots of cool things. You even learn about streaming. Tony and I were able to do an event together with Adam Tao, the author of Mix Effect, and that was a blast. And so great to have you. Thank you, Freddie. I enjoy the Skycam as well. I placed it all the way back there. And so I'll pop that on here in a little bit. Right now, OBS is displaying chat. So, and I mean, obviously I could just mouse right over here and turn them both on at the same time. And so there you have the far away view. So it's not as complicated as it used to be, but I still have to enable the Skycam, which comes into OBS, and so does the chat. Thanks to Aaron Parecki. Not only does he have a great video on over his channel about the things he really likes about some of the new announcements, but he also covered the gear last Sunday, and he also rewrote his chat, pop-out chat Chrome extension, and fixed a bunch of bugs, and it was released, and it should automatically update. So I think I'm using that right now to display Freddie's chat. So I did not check the number of which one I had, but let's go ahead and turn the Skycam back off the air here and just focus on saying hello. Let's see. So said hi to... Okay, we have Jay here. It's good to see you, Jay. Jay has his own channel as well, and he's doing lots of stuff in the TV world, and so it's very interesting, his channel, so go check that out as well. Fun stuff, and I like his humor, and I like some of the guys that heckle him like they heckle me live. So I do enjoy that. And I think, Jay, you're streaming. Let us know. I think you stream every week, usually on Saturday nights, I think. And I apologize for not making more of your streams. Life has been pretty hectic around here, and we could talk more about that if you guys are interested. Audio seems low, so I will crank that up just a little bit more. And so send me a picture of you holding your ears if it gets too loud. And I've been moving around with my microphone as well. So I think I've said hi to everybody that joined me in the chat. Yeah, I think Joe said he's drooling over the new gear. It would work very well for the streaming I do. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about this tech. So what am I talking about here? Tonight, I actually have a macro, and I'm going to give you a sneak peek because I'm going to actually put my teleprompter on, because in my old age, I don't remember things as well. And so you can't see this right now, but my HyperDeck shuttle just popped up on my monitor. So rather than seeing myself in the monitor right above my Canon 5D Mark IV, I now have my teleprompter up there, and I can cheat and show you guys over my shoulder. It is right there. And so, well, actually, you guys are seeing it. Sorry. I don't know what happened there, but it popped up on the screen in the program, and it wasn't supposed to do that. So not sure what I did. Messed up that macro, I guess, tonight. I should have tested it. But so those are the devices. So you saw them on the screen. 5 new things took place this week. Blackmagic Design made these announcements. Let's put the logo back up on the screen. And so what we have now is a ATEM Television Studio HD8. So it's an 8 channel on the desk television studio. And if you know anything about the old television studios, it was kind of a slash rack mount slash desktop, and now they have decided to just go desktop. And one of the things I thought was really interesting, and if you haven't seen this announcement video, I really encourage you to go on over to Blackmagic's design site. We will be on the webpage here a little bit later tonight. But the video is really good because Grant, at the very beginning, who makes all these announcements, really shared the why. And it's one of the things I wanted to talk about today. So the one of the things I really liked about his why was there was some issues. Obviously, some things were outdated about the Television Studio HD, but he also wanted to kind of set a course. I think they also are wanting to motivate more and more people to use some of the new features that they have developed, and they really want to be cutting edge. So it kind of forces the hand to make those things available. We'll talk more about that. But there's 2 versions of this television studio. There's the HD8, and then there is an ISO model. And we're going to talk about the differences about those a little bit tonight. So get your questions ready. I'll do my absolute best to answer those. And I'm still wrapping my head around these devices, though there's a lot of similarities to the Extreme that I use. And so, and then there's some differences, that there's some features in there that I wish I had. Plus, I do like the buttons on the front of the Extreme. The longer I use it, some of them I don't use that much, but some of them I do. So we will talk about that. But let me finish this list, and then we'll check to see who else has popped in. We are getting a little started earlier tonight with the conversation, but I wanted to jump right in. So, and I guess I could, let's see, I could bring up SuperSource here. So let's do this real quick. So we can be on the screen together. SuperSource, box 2. Let's go HyperDeck. I think, yeah, there we go. So let me switch over here to SuperSource. So I'm on the screen, and there's SuperSource, and there's the deal. So not only do you have the ATEM Television Studio HD8, you also have the ATEM Television Studio HD8 ISO. And so obviously, if you know anything about the Extreme and the Extreme ISO ATEM Mini, then you're going to understand a little bit more about the differences in these devices. But there's even more differences, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And then they also, because of some of the things that they've added in to the new television studio models, and again, these are consoles, they're carbon fiber, they're designed to be able to drop right into a cutout desk. So if you want to flush mount it, you can. It comes with the little stencil to cut out your desk, so maybe you wouldn't cut out your desk, but you want to develop a new desk or create a broadcast trailer. I mean, there's just so many things that are really cool about these devices, and it's hard not to get excited when Blackmagic kind of kicks it up to another notch. And I really believe that they're doing that. And I also want to be a little bit more excited about the why and about the new products than I hear other people being on YouTube. And I haven't had a chance to consume everybody's videos, but I have listened to some of the videos that are in my loop and people that I follow. So number 3, they've released another 4K camera. So this is going to be called the Blackmagic Studio Camera 4K Pro G2 Generation 2 because they've tweaked it. Then the camera that Grant really was kind of excited about and proud of because the bigger sensor and all of the updates was the Blackmagic Studio Camera 6K Pro. And these cameras were out pretty much the whole time. One was under the counter, but the other one was being used pretty much, the 4K was being used pretty much the whole show. And then later on, he tells you what's different about that 4K and why it's the G2 model and not just the 4K earlier model. So, and then the last thing, so 2 cameras, we'll talk about those in a minute. 2 consoles, right? Television studios. I'm going to call them consoles. I apologize if you don't like that terminology, but I've always thought anything that sits on your desk is more console based and anything else that's on a rack is more rack mounted. And then you have the ability to have 2 independent devices that talk to each other as well. And that's great. And Blackmagic Design has those consoles, but these are television studios and they come in 2 types, 2 cameras, a 4K and 6K that have similar features in them, different sensor sizes. And then this last thing, I think in reality, makes me probably as excited as any of the new features and maybe most of the new features, and that is the ATEM microphone converter. So that is something else I want to talk about tonight. So I hope you're patient and you're ready to take this journey with me. Let's jump back in the chat. Let's clear it here real quick. And go back to my whack and pin. It's just going to be faster. So Jay's updating us on when he streams. So Mondays right there at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So that is not my time. I am Pacific time and he is Eastern time. So that makes it later there. So good to have you, Jay. I hope your wife doesn't mind you being on my live streams every Tuesday. So before we dive in here too much, let me get the cat out of the bag. I was going to wait to the very end to tell you this, but I had 2 still images. I should pop up my original still image. It's always good to have some people in your world that are following you during the week, because sometimes you will get let's see what, I'm just going to change it right now. And let's see, I need to be in the right February folder. And let me bring up my still images here. So let's see, where are you? Here it is. So I'll drop this over and put it on the screen. Now let's do this. Let's just put the live still on. This is the one that you guys have seen. And then I had this one up for a very short time. Is it going to let me drop this in? I'm having issues here with my folder. So let me let my computer wake up. For some reason, my hard drive, my spinning hard drive was not awake. So let me let it wake up and then I'll drag this in and we'll finish this conversation. So anyway, I had an X out of my still image from last stream. So you can see that my still image is on the bottom right-hand side of this. And I had an X out of that in my original still image. I think I can drop this in now and then put it on the screen. So this is what I had up there. And I got a little bit of feedback. So Freddie emailed me and said, does this mean, Keith, that you are getting rid of your 2 ATEMs? And I thought, wow, good reaction. I got a reaction right away. I wanted to create some curiosity because obviously when new products come out, if you have a different product, like I have two extreme ISOs in my studio, I have the A10 Mini Pro, and I was going to grab that and bring it over here. So I'll grab that here in a minute. So I have three different switchers that I have in my studio. My A10 Mini Pro is going to go into Studio B. And then when these products are announced, it's really hard for each one of us because we're always processing, is this something that I want to add to my studio? Can I afford it? Does it make sense? Does it add new features? Will it make things easier? So the reason I want to throw the why out and get that off the plate, because Tony reached out to me as well, and kind of dual conversation back and forth over a number of weeks. And then he asked me the same question. And I said, well, do you think that still image is too bold? Because in reality, the X represented, more a question. Do I exit out? And you guys were going, are you exiting it out? Which wasn't really the response I was looking for. And one of the things I learned when I was in my sales career, and obviously I still do some sales, but I was full-time selling. I learned that if you get the wrong answers, sometimes you're asking the wrong questions. So I don't know if that will help you out. So when you're communicating with people or individuals and you're expecting, like if you said to your wife or to your best friend, hey, let's go have coffee. Would you like to go to Starbucks or Dutch Brothers or that little coffee shop that we've been to before? Well, obviously you're expecting one of the three in response. It's really kind of a question that's formed to give them a multiple choice, and then they pick one. If you all of a sudden you get this, I'm sick of coffee, that's all you ever want to do, you may have to back up and re-ask the question. The question probably should be like this: hey, I'm really looking forward to going and hanging out. Are you still interested in doing coffee? Would you like to have breakfast, lunch? What works for you? I'm excited. Or should we go to Best Buy and look at some of the cool tech? And so the question you ask greatly influences the answer you get. So I decided to rebake the still image. I went to this one instead. I ran it by Tony and said, what do you think? And he said, that's much better, because this one simply says, what now? With my two ATEM Extreme Pro ISO. And I don't know, I struggle with this. I don't know if I can add an S at the end of ISO or not. So I just don't, because it just doesn't look right for me. But that's been the question. Will I get one of these two consoles and replace my two extreme ISOs? And let me just tell you right up front, let's just let the cat out of the bag. I know you're waiting for my answer. And my answer is, I'm not sure. I'm getting ready to build a Studio B. So do I want to add it then so that I can wrap my head around it and begin to help people understand it better? Is it going to be super popular? Because remember, when this little ATEM came out, now this is the Pro, but when the ATEM came out, it shook a bunch of things up. And so the ATEM Mini, which did not have the ability to record to an SSD drive, it did not have the ability to stream. It did have great encoders, so you could put like a 720p device in there, and it would always adjust to whatever you're streaming at. So you didn't have to make sure that every camera coming in was at a certain type size and frame rate. It automatically adjusted, and that was unheard of. You had 4 inputs that you could switch. Almost dropped it. And yes, I do have door stops on the bottom, which is my answer for tilting it up like this on your desk, because this doesn't work for me. So I've added this angle to it, and those are just Velcroed on the back. And I use small ones for my ATEM Mini Pro, and I use 5-inch ones on my Extremes. And yes, I do have these door stops, are inexpensive, and they're a fast solution. And then I reverse them from my HyperDecks, because my HyperDecks need to turn up so I can see the little itty bitty screens. So obviously, and then I don't need feet on my HyperDeck shuttle for an obvious reason. So again, when this came out, I learned on it. This is the Pro, so it does record the program feed. and it does give you the ability to stream. It had limited streaming locations when it started, but now with the new firmware and the new control software from Blackmagic Design, there's lots of different places that you can stream, all built into the onboard XL file, whatever it is. File. It has all of those streaming locations, so all you have to do is go into control software and choose that, and we'll look at the control software in a minute. And so in reality, as you add new devices, you get more things that you can control. So you go from 4 buttons on the Extreme, you go to 4 buttons from the ATEM Mini. Then you have the ATEM Mini Pro, which I'm holding right here. This adds recording and streaming, and then multi-view, and then you go up to the ATEM Mini Pro ISO, and then you get ISO recording. So all of the inputs, so 4 inputs plus the program are recorded. It creates an XML file, a folder. You can open it up in DaVinci Resolve, and you can just edit it. And then if you have Blackmagic Design cameras and you're recording inside the camera at 4K or 6K or whatever it is, you can link that 6K or 4K footage later and use it to automatically replace the individual footage. Now, you would have to have those cameras on record, and you'd have to have them linked. But again, lots of cool things. And so more buttons on the Pro and the Extreme. You added the Matrix, and again, you have multi-view on the Pro and not the Extreme, the Pro and the Pro ISO. And then the Extremes came out. By the way, Deck Saver makes these cool covers. So I have a cover for all of my ATEMs, and so in my studio. So we'll set that back down. So I was excited about the Pro. So I'm not sure with the B Studio, and Shannon and I have decided we're going to go ahead and do that. Do I go ahead and get the new console in there? So that's the question. So I'm not going to use the console in here. And I'll talk later tonight about what would get me excited to replace my 2 Extremes in my studio. And if you've never seen that, let's just get the cat out of the bag here. Let's see channel 3. Here's my desk. So I have my original Extreme ISO. Let's move this out of the way so you guys can see it really well. And so this is my original one, and now I have my new Extreme ISO. And these are working together in tandem. In fact, this downward camera is coming in right here, and I don't have to have it live because I'm literally coming through the outputs. So, and I talked about that last week, so go back and check that video out. I'm able to use the output settings in the control software to send whatever input I want out of output number 1 and whatever I want out of output number 2. So I have 2 of these outputs assigned to these, and actually right now I have one of them assigned to my overhead camera. So my overhead camera is available to me, even though it's not plugged into my original Extreme ISO. And I can ISO record all of the inputs. I'm not doing that tonight. I'm only recording the program, but I could turn on record in both of those devices, and I would be recording all 16 inputs, both programs out, and I would have 2 separate folders, and all of the audio, all of the photos that I have in the media pool, all of that saved in a file. And I could open that up in DaVinci Resolve and then edit later. And I know there are people out there now that are doing that, and it's pretty exciting. So those 5 devices, right? 2 new television studios, the HD8 and the HD8 ISO. And then you also have 2 cameras, the 4K G2 and the new 6K Pro. And there's some changes. And then you have the new little switcher that is the microphone switcher, and it's a MADI switcher. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And so let's do one more little look at the chat here, and then we're going to catch up. It's good to see you, David. It looks like you got the alert. It is great to have you. You're asking me, am I getting the new ATEM? Well, I'm talking about it right now. I'm not quite sure that I'm going to pull the trigger on that, but I am debating about that going into to Studio B and building it right into a desk. So we'll see. And it's a lot of money. We'll talk about how much they cost here later, but pretty crazy what they have available to us. So again, hi, back to you. Bill says, how would you stream if you moved from the extremes to the new console? Okay, well, if I got the new console, Bill, I would simply stream from the console. I might get a Web Presenter Pro or HD and use it. I might then, if I got that console, use my A10 Mini Pro in that studio. That way I could put my HyperDeck in it like Aaron Parecki did for a while. What you do is you have the console and then you use one of the program output out to your, you'd have to convert it because it's SDI in the new television studio. So you come out of that dedicated program SDI out, and that dedicated SDI program out is available in both the HD and the HD Pro ISO. And so you would then come out of that into an input in your A10 Mini Pro, and then you could go live from your Pro. That way I don't have to worry about exposing my streaming key. I can put my HyperDeck up there and then just have some macros that are controlling the graphics in my HyperDeck, playing my intro video. All of that would play over top of everything coming out of the new television studio, because again, everything it sends out to the program would then come into my Pro. My HyperDeck would come into the Pro, as well as the input from the new console, and then I would go out to the internet from there. But if you remember, I was going to remote from my Studio B to my streaming bridge into this studio. So I'm not sure how I would do it. So part two of that question, Bill, is I would probably then find a way to, in reality, I would probably still go from that console into my main studio, which is right here, into my streaming bridge, and then into these two devices. Actually, my streaming bridge comes into my new Extreme ISO, and then I can bring that into my live show. So I'd only bring that into my live show in here if I was going to walk out there. And that's the goal. I want to be able to do a live and be able to go back and forth between both studios. That's the end game. And then if for some reason I have to close this studio down, even thinking about setting it up so it has a overnight bed in it for a guest if there's some kind of family emergency. So then if that happened on a Tuesday, then I would just move my whole show out into Studio B and just not use this studio at all and stream directly from that device. So lots of questions, but my A10 Mini Pro would be available. And I could go from the console in Studio B to the A10 Mini Pro and stream out from it to the internet, or stream out to it into this studio. And again, I wouldn't have to expose the streaming key to my streaming bridge during my live show in the Studio B. It's a long answer to your question, but that's typical for me. I apologize. Okay. So, man, lots of stuff. Yeah, so Aaron Parecki is not getting it because he's gone to the Constellation 4ME, and for obvious reasons. He had the Matrix, which was 20 in, 20 out. He really wanted to get the 40 in, 40 out. And he realized, now I have the ability to have 40 inputs and 40 outputs. There are some issues with that device. The audio, I believe, is a bit different on what you can route through those SDI outs. So I really do think some of those things are solved, and we'll talk about that. And not a lot of people are talking about some of the audio features that are available in this new Television Studio HD8. So, okay, so that's your advice, and I will take that down into my consideration box. So, yeah, it would make a great video series. Yeah, a lot of these things are really eating at me. I understand the new 8 has streaming bridge included, so if you get one, could you use the Extreme in the Studio B connected to the HD8? Could I use the Extreme in the studio? Yeah, there's lots of different versions. So first of all, the streaming bridge is only in the ISO model. So just so we can clarify that, being as you asked this, Freddie, let's clarify. So you have the HD8 and then you have the AC8 ISO. The ISO has streaming bridges and ISO recording on each one of the tracks. And Aaron Preki did a video today saying that's one of the things that he asked for a while back before they came out with the Extreme and the Extreme ISO and the SDI Extreme ISO. So in reality, or all the SDI versions. And so he was pretty excited that he finally has the ability to remotely stream in to that device, but it's not in the less expensive one. So Freddie, if you want the feature for ISO recording all 8 tracks in this new television studio, you also need to bump up your budget to get the version that's ISO, because you will then have the ability to choose a HDMI input camera or a remote cam. And again, it'll automatically find anything on your inside network. But if you want to stream from out of network, which means inside your house or inside your business, wherever you have this device hooked up to into your internet or your network in your location, if you want to come in from outside, then there's a lot of little things you have to do, both in the original streaming bridge, and mine's under my desk mounted, so I can't show it to you, but or the streaming bridges that are built in this console, and that's not all that they built in. So, I want to dive in and talk about that. So hopefully that helps you answer the question, Freddie. So again, I could take my Extreme into Studio B and then stream into here. If I bought that panel, I could then stream into there from through a streaming bridge. Again, or no, actually from the console directly into it if I was in here, or vice versa. So just so you know that the streaming bridge can receive from any one of the devices that stream. So you can use it as a stream location. So instead of streaming to YouTube, you stream to the bridge. And then if the HDMI of the bridge comes into your live stream as an input, then you can go live to it. So you could broadcast it. So technically you could bring a guest in through your streaming bridge. You could bring another ATEM into your streaming bridge. And now you could actually bring cameras in to this console. Now, what will happen from cameras to streaming bridge, we'll have to see if they update the inside software of the streaming bridge to let you stream to it. It makes total sense that you could. It's exactly the same technology according to what I think Grant said. But again, there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. So, but the cool thing is I can stream to my streaming bridge now from my ATEM Mini Pro, from my Extreme. ISO, if you have an Extreme, you can stream to it. If you have an ATEM Mini Pro or Pro ISO, you can, but you can't from the little ATEM Mini. And then the price of the ATEM Mini Pro has come down to $295, which is a great price for it because you can stream from it. It's a great portable rig. You could take 2 cameras in your laptop with you somewhere and have 2 camera view and bring graphics on the air through your laptop, play videos from your laptop, or take a Apple TV with you or Chromecast and then use it into the ATEM and then tether your phone or tether your iPad. There's lots of different ways that you can use the little ATEM Mini Pro because it will record the program and it will stream out, has an encoder built in, H.264, and you can even record at HyperDeck High. So it's a very, very quality H.264 file that you can do that. You probably would never stream at HyperDeck High unless you have a super, super fast internet. I'm streaming at regular right now, and I'm not HyperDeck High, but I like to record ISO tracks at HyperDeck High because then if I do need to make adjustments, I have a lot more information in HyperDeck High to color it later or bring up the brightness or any of that stuff. So, man, lots to cover, and we haven't even got any still images up here. Let me catch up. Yep, could be an awesome video series. Yes, only the HD ISO has remote streaming options, so it's not available in the regular HD8. So, and if you watch that video again, it is so true. And that's from Tony. Thank you for helping with that. Barker isn't getting one either. Yeah, trust me. I'm watching. I held out. And so I may need some help. I don't have that money right now. So, but I did get a super chat tonight. So I am $20 minus whatever YouTube takes closer to getting that. So please hit the like button. Please subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys so much. So, yeah, and again, we'll come back to that. That's a great point, Freddie. I think that's what both Aaron Precky said and Barker said about, they would be a lot more interested for what they're doing. And remember, Aaron Precky's actually branched out into his wife's podcast. He's building a new building, and to be able to communicate back and forth and stream back and forth is super important to him. And he's already using Maddie with his Behringer 32 channel mixer back and forth to his Constellation, I believe it's called, 4ME. So he's already familiar with the new Maddie features that are available in the new HD8, as well as the HD8 ISO. Okay, so yeah, he's looking for more inputs. Barker likes the inputs. Good to see you, DJ Ware. DJ Ware has a really good channel. I watched one of his videos today for a few minutes. Obviously, today is not the day to get a catch up on all the videos I get alerts for, but please check out DJ Ware's channel. He is very, very capable to help you understand some of the higher end things in the IT world. And so that's who I'd recommend that you go study under if that is an area you're curious about, as well as guys like Tony and even TVJ. Yeah, Freddie is saying that Aaron's pretty confident that they're going to come out with a bigger model. Yeah, why would I put my new studio, why would I put the new console in Studio B? If I pulled the trigger on an 8, it would make sense. So just so you know, so right now there's only two options. There is a non-ISO with no streaming bridge in it. Lots of cool features, more stuff crammed into it. In reality, I think there is one thing they took away, and I'm still trying to get to the bottom of it. I think they took away one of the picture-picture DVEs. At least that's the way it feels when you read the specs. That's the way it feels if you listen to Grant very closely when he talks about the DVEs. And so I think Multiview is still there, which is 4 built-in DVEs. But in reality, they don't have the ability to do borders or shadows. You can move them around. You can assign different things to them. You can have 1 on the screen or 4 on the screen. They have a forward or background layer that you can put in using your media pool and your media players. But I don't know that you have 2 picture-in-pictures. I think that was a takeaway, and I don't know, but I like the ability now with my 2 extremes. I can put 4 pictures on the screen, believe it or not, and I'm going to demo this. I was going to demo it this week, but we'll demo it next week. But I can put 4 different sources on the screen with backgrounds and borders. And so, in fact, I could probably, if I wanted to really get complicated, I could have a background split from my ATEM Extreme ISO original one and another background split from the new one and be able to dissolve between those, why those 4 boxes are on the air. And again, that's something I'll play with. That's kind of a 2ME feature using upstream keys and some animations, but that is possible with 2 of them. If they took away one of those DVEs, one of those picture-in-pictures, it just means that when you activate the DVE part of your upstream keys, only 2 of them on my extreme or extreme ISOs out there can you have picture-in-picture on with a border and a background. So just because you have 4 upstream keys doesn't mean you have 4 of those DVEs. You have 4 built into your multi or your super source, right? But if you're not dealing with super source, right, and you're just using the keys and the DVE, you can only activate 2 of those. My suspicion, and I might be wrong, I apologize if I am, but if I'm right, I'm the only one talking about it so far that I've seen. I think there's only 1 of those DVEs now in the new consoles. So we'll have to wait and see if that's true. So, okay, I'm not doing a 24-hour live stream tonight, so let's dive in. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I would absolutely buy the Matty converter if I pull a trigger on a console. And I'll tell you why. It's the perfect solution for adding 2 cameras, hooking up an SDI through the Matty input, and then routing your audio back and forth to headphones and all of that. I haven't worked out the headphone side of it yet. But you would be able to use the preamps inside that converter, have 4 microphones over at a table. And you think about that. You could run a snake, or you could have one of those converters, and you'd have to just ask yourself, does this snake, which a snake is basically a box with a long cable. I have one in my studio running on the floor. It has 4 inputs and 2 headphone inputs. And so that means I only have 2 headphones if I have people at the table. If I was doing that kind of podcast with 4 guests, I would want a snake with 4 headphones and 4 microphones. So that's something that I still have to process. Okay. So, hey, Akil, hi from Germany. Thank you so much for joining us. Sean, thank you for joining us as well. He says, I agree on the camera control. Second is Maddie. Yeah, I will be selling, if I did trade in or buy a new device, I would be selling some of my switchers. And because I do some installs, Joe, I would probably be able to just use those in installs. Again, I wouldn't do any warranty. I'd give that client an option if they want to take them or not. They're both used. I bought the second one used from one of the viewers here on the channel. And so it would be great to sell those. And hopefully they would last a long time. And I would feel bad if someone bought it from me. Thank you, Freddie. Please hit the like button. I appreciate that very much. Good to see you, Hank. Thanks for stopping in. David says he loves the new gear. Freddie says hi, and Hank says hi to Freddie back. And I'm going to pause here right now in the chat, and we are going to go to a new view. So let's do this. Slideshow and me. Let's take this chat off the air. There we go. So here are the devices. Obviously, you can see what the prices are. I'm going to enlarge this so you can see it's $29.95 for the ATEM Television Studio HD8. It is $39.95, so another $1,000 to go to the streaming bridges and ISO recording. And do the math. If you had to buy 8 HyperDecks, actually 9 HyperDecks to record the program as well, and then you had to go ahead and buy streaming bridges for all 8 channels, it is a lot of money. And so Grant made it very clear what it would cost you if you tried to build this yourself. So they have really set themselves up for success on selling these consoles. And then you have the ATEM microphone converter. And again, it's Maddie. And Maddie's been added to these 2 ATEM Television Studio HD8s, both the HD8 and the ISO model. Then you have the Studio Camera 6K Pro G2. Again, that has the ability now to stream to this device or to a streaming bridge built in. And there's some other features in there as well. And then you have the 6K Pro. And what I really liked about it is you can digitally control even the ND filters. So there are so many things built into these 2 panels. That's what I really want to spend some time now talking about. So let's do this. Let me drop this in. So you can see you can connect up to 8 independent cameras. This is the back of the device. You have 8 SDI inputs. You have the reference in and out, you have DC power. So you have two types of power in this device for redundancy. You have two USB-C ports, so you could record to 2 discs. There is an M.2 disc available that you can put inside the device. I wish that they'd added a hyperdeck inside, but they did not add a hyperdeck inside, so keep that in mind. But you did get 200 frames of 60 frames per second video for a stinger. Yep, you can actually run a stinger now at 60 frames per second, and you can do the math. 200 frames divided by 60 is how many seconds you're going to be able to go with your stinger on the screen. And then if you go to 20 or 30 frames per second, you have 400 frames. So do the math, 400 frames divided by 30. That's how many seconds of video that you can have on the screen. So you're not going to play back a video, but you can play a stinger now. And they never activated that feature inside the Extreme ISO or the SDI model, even though, if I remember right, there is a lonely stinger button on top of every single Extreme ISO and the SD model, but it's never been activated. So also up there, you have the ability to have time code in and out. That's a new feature on the updated HyperDecks. So it syncs things better for automation. And you also have the MADI audio input. So again, there are some really, really, really cool features here. So MADI in and MADI out. And so that is a whole nother level to be able to get audio in and out. So you could literally send MADI out to a console and let someone else do all your mixing and let all your audio go there and let someone else do all the mixing, especially for like some of the venues I'm working with now. In fact, one of the announcements I have tonight is right before my live stream, I was asked to help my church on Easter Sunday run their live stream. So I am going to be the guy running their 8K console switching for that live event, that live service, because of my relationship with them. And occasionally I've consulted with them. I am going to step in and help them on that Sunday. So you can then send that to, and I won't have to mix any audio because the audio then goes to a console that's in that same room, and they mix professional audio for their live stream that goes out to the world. And then down in the main venue, you have another sound tech mixing both the monitors in the ears of the people on the platform, because they're using all in-ear monitors, and the house. So I'm going to be inside doing the editing and watching the big screens and choosing the different cameras that they have, talking on the headset to all the other people running cameras, and be basically producing that show. Well, mainly switching. I'll have a producer in there with me as well. It's a tandem team. So that will be fun. So again, you have those SDIs over on the side, and then you have these 3G inputs. Again, they're intelligent, so they can automatically adjust for whatever you put in them, up to 60 frames per second, 1080p. There is no 4K built into this console, and so if you put a laptop, plug it in, it's automatically going to adjust to whatever you're streaming at, recording at, as well as if you put in a camera, it's going to automatically adjust it to whatever you have your control software set to stream at. Then you have SDI outputs. So you have these 8 going in, and then technically you have 9 going out. So you can go out to all of those cameras. You can send the program back to the cameras, talk back to the cameras. And because of the way this is set, you have those cameras coming in through SDI inputs, and then the SDI going back to them through the house. And again, you can convert these SDIs to like fiber and then back again. But in reality, this is really opening up the ability to use one of these 8-channel consoles or 8-input consoles to do this communicating back and forth to the cameras, control the color, control focus, control all of those features, including being able to send talkback audio back and forth. So 8 SDI inputs, 8 SDI outputs, and then you have these other outputs over here, and we'll look at those as well. You have an SDI and an HDMI multi-view output. So one is just multi-view and one is just program. So you could have those go to a multi-view monitor or a split monitor, and the other one would be program, so you could always see your program, always see your multi-view, and then you have two auxiliaries that you can send any output to. So those auxiliaries could be another two monitors, or it could be a front projector. The other one could be a confidence monitor in the back. One could be sending one thing, and the other one could be sending another thing. So again, there's still some things that you'd have to do to be able to do like Pro Presenter and all of that stuff. But now you have a SDI that could be sent to a splitter and go to all of the in the venue monitors. And then another one could go to the back monitors or monitors that you'd be sending to your video team that are out there. And again, if you had a Blackmagic Design camera and they're talking, you could see the program by hitting the program button on the camera. So I would be able to see what is live if I had headphones on and I was running a camera. So that's pretty cool. Then you have the audio inputs for your control room and for your studio. So you could have a control room and have audio on those speakers. And then in the other room, which could be a venue or whatever, you could have that. So this is going to be a great tool for recording studios. It's going to be a great tool for smaller venues that want to do both live music, but also maybe record and send that whole mix to another console for recording that band. There's just so many things that you can do with that. Then you also have the stereo right and left. That's the little white and red input. So that could come from a player, or you could come back from your mixing console. So you could go into that from your Rodecaster Pro. So you come out 1/4 inch right and left, and you'd have to convert that to those inputs on that console, and that could be how you bring your Rodecaster Pro in. You also have the TalkBack and two XLRs. Now, these are not Neutrik, so they do not have a 1/4 inch input. So it's not like you can come out from your Rodecaster Pro directly in to the 1/4 inch input, but you can get a MADI box and do it that way, like the new Convertor, because it has 4 Neutrik adapters on it, so line and XLR mic level. So you could come in from one of those under your desk and bring your Rodecaster Pro in that way and use the very, very, very high-end converters in that device. And if you wonder what I'm talking about, let me just pop that device up here really quick. So this is that ATEM microphone converter. It's got really good quality. I guess my crop is over here in my way. So let me fix that real quick. So let's go left crop. A little bit further over there. So you can see you have those inputs on the left, and then you have the inputs on the right. So that's the ATEM microphone converter. And those little buttons right here, that's just the release button. So those are XLRs. You can see them right there. Just, let's see, how do I point there? Right there. So 4 XLRs, I could plug 1/4 inch from my Rodecaster Pro left and right into those, and then I could pan right and left on the inputs coming in to my new console. So lots of options here. And again, you have to control this either through the dip switches that are on the side, and you can see the graph right there on the top right. You have to, I believe, go through the inputs, or you have to go through the USB-C port from your laptop to control it through the converter software, just like you have to do if you have a HDMI to SDI converter. To update it, you need to have it hooked up to a computer, either a Mac or a PC, and open up that software. But once you have it set up, this would be a great podcasting tool, or it could also be a way to bring in a console if you wanted to. So I just see lots of things that are processing. Plus, you can see the HDMI port on the far bottom right. They have a great audio interface that you can see from this device as well. So let me pop that up here on the screen. What is going on with my mouse? Let me drop that in. So if you plug that HDMI in, then you get this readout. So, and you can daisy chain these devices. What does that mean? That means that this can be daisy chains. I think there's a diagram right here of them being daisy chains up to 64 channels. So you can go from one to the next, to the next, to the next, up to 64 channels, 4 a piece. So divide 64 by 4 and you get the math of how many of those devices you have to have. Just amazing ability here to add audio to an interface. And so what am I thinking? Let me just say it right now. I believe that this console is probably going to end up being a 16 and then even more. I think we're going to see a whole new line. In fact, I'll just go ahead and predict it right now that we're going to see a bunch of these devices, because the fact that they created this device and the fact that you can daisy chain it, the fact that they're diving into MADI and these desktop consoles, that they're taking the update to this level, starting with 8 channels. It's almost like an ATEM Mini Pro. Then we'll see the Pro ISO. Then we'll see the Extreme ISO. And then we're going to see multiple input devices in the future. And again, it might be a device that you communicate with in a rack. We'll see with a bigger console. But I really believe that things are coming. Now, there's more than one preamp per channel to really get the gain up there, and also the noise way down. So these are not Sunday school, elementary, right? A small picnic basket preamps. These are high-end preamps. I haven't tested them yet, but I am very excited about what's available. So we also have a basically an internet switch built in. You can see that. And then there's some of the other traditional hookups there. And then one HDMI out. Aaron Precky talked about this. John Barker talked about this. I think everybody's talking about this. I wish there was more than just one HDMI out on the whole device. That's to go to a monitor in your studio if you don't have an SDI. But everything else output is SDI, and you will have to convert it if you want to go directly to a studio HDMI monitor. So keep that in mind. So 2 SDI inputs, an M.2 device built into both consoles. And if you order right now, it looks like you're getting a 2 terabyte built in. And then one of the things that I haven't talked about at all is that you have their new cloud technology built into both devices. So literally, you could record and move it up to the cloud, also to Dropbox and to Google Drive, as well as you can sign up through Blackmagic Design and use their online collaboration. So the ISO model would record all of the ISO tracks. That folder would then be available with all the input in there. That makes way more sense if you're going to get into this cloud collaboration. So you could be live streaming, finish your live stream, go into your next one, and your team could be editing it, taking small chunks of it and putting it out on social media. So this is a big, big deal. So again, lots of talk about this device, and just limited time tonight to do it. And then there's the 2 consoles side by side. You can see they're identical. We haven't even talked about the top part of this console, but there's some real depth to this console. This new LCD screen gives you ability to do camera control. You can bank up on the EQ per channel. You can adjust ND filters. You can adjust the exposure of your Blackmagic Design cameras. Obviously, they have to be communicating back and forth. But again, you don't have to buy all the converters. Now you can go SDI to the camera and from the camera SDI back. There are some converting that you have to do on some of the older cameras. But if you look at these new cameras, there's some really cool stuff here. Do I still have my camera up here? Let me go into this folder. Did it not drop in there? Let me drop it in. Let's see. Let's drop it in right here because we've used that. So this new camera gives you some new options as well. This is designed not only to communicate to an ISO model by giving you a choice between something that's wired to it, SDI input, or through the Ethernet port, basically through your network, you can now choose a network device, and then you can copy files back and forth to the camera using a USB stick and be able to link them outside of the studio. So you could link them before you go out remotely. You could take a remote camera out and do a interview, take one of the Maddie devices with you, and you're going to be all set up to be able to do some remote recording. Plus, they've added the ability with built-in microphones, XLR inputs. I mean, again, I would have to have a whole live to just talk about the cameras, and there is more than one. You have the 6K, you have the EF mount, so you can use the Canon lenses now. So there is just so much happening here. But again, I think there's a lot to talk about the audio, and there's a lot to talk about with the ability to control all this. So if you are a one-band show, you can mix your audio. Again, it has to be coming from the cameras, but you also have the ability to EQ, change the compressors all on the screen, and you could really forego having a laptop with you for a live event and just use the laptop for bringing in graphics or bringing in a video source. So again, you can still hook up HyperDeck. You can still use macros. You have so many things that are available on this console. But again, back to my why. My why, right? The reason that one of the things that I need to make the decision on for whatever I add to my studio is my why. My main goal for my channel when I started it was to help other people with these devices, to consume it, to get them if I have to, or study it so I can help other people. I want to be able to walk into a venue that's interested in using Blackmagic design or updating Blackmagic design equipment, maybe moving from 1080p cameras to 4K or 6K or 8K. I want to be able to help them. And then in studio, a lot of people that are opening up small studios or starting to live stream, I also want to be able to help them. So having the ability to interview and have conversations both live and remotely is my passion. So whatever decision I make, Studio A, Studio B, whatever console I get, it's going to be going through this filter. And I love that these pictures were included on their webpage, right? So you have this picture, and then you have this picture. More of a video setup. There's one of the cameras. You have a 2-position camera. I would also use a wide shot for this. So I would want to have a individual camera on the 2 people talking, and then I'd also want to be able to cut to a wide shot. You can go to Aaron Precky's channel and check out his new, as he builds. I'm not sure it's his wife, but it's definitely his partner. They have the house building files, and they're now doing a podcast with video, and they have 3 cameras. His older cameras from his old studio are all up there in their house now. They have a set, and he was actually using the Mix Effects automation feature. So he set it so it was actually changing cameras. So if they're both kind of talking at the same time, it would go to the wide shot. If just she was talking, it goes to her camera. And if he's talking, it goes to his camera. And he actually experimented with that in the house files, I think last week, and uploaded it. And so that's a cool thing. But if you're going to have a team there, I think there's a lot of advantages here to some of these tools. The ability to have these Maddie devices, these converters there, the ability that these new cameras have for you, the ability to use this new console, and then to create setups for both video as well as maybe just a audio podcast with a wide shot. So I really do think Blackmagic Design has hit this first step completely and totally out of the park. And again, I'm going to have to switch this. So let's just get rid of these. Let's see. So, and I will shrink box 2 down here just a little bit. So, supports internal media for stills and motion graphics. It includes 4 ATEM advanced chroma keyers. There's just so much here that it's just amazing to me. So let's just pause for a second, go back to me and a logo. I know there's just lots and lots of things in these devices. Remember, they didn't just release one device, they released 5. And that is like an explosion to the world that we're a part of. So maybe you like it simple and that just scares you, that even just an ATEM Mini Pro, then that's great. If you're never going to have more than a couple cameras and your laptop coming in, maybe you want to have your Apple TV coming in so you can do some tethering, then that's great. Then just get an ATEM Mini Pro. It's under $300 and it does pretty much everything you need to do. And then you can plug in any kind of 1080p camera. And then if you want to bring a webcam in, then get a quality webcam and then just bring it in through OBS through one of the HDMI inputs. And if you want to do long runs, then buy the SDI models. And then you can do long runs. And there's even some new cables that you can get to work that go longer runs than HDMI. They're not traditional HDMIs. They either have CAT or fiber built into them, but then again, or just buy a converter and go long runs. Because again, if you want to convert to SDI, you have to, or back from SDI to HDMI, you have to buy converters. And the more of those converters you can save, the better off you are. It's 1:15, so we have been live for an hour and 15 minutes already. And I'm not going to stay here all night. It's not a 24-hour stream, but I did want to tell you guys the why. And again, just to make it very clear, full screen right now, this is the filter, right? I started this room, took it over, got rid of my man cave because I wanted to do a podcast with my wife. I convinced her to go from not just audio like that. I convinced her to go video in this room. And because of that, it started this journey for me. And then I got an ATEM Mini Pro so we could do video. Then I moved into the studio. Then I got an Extreme so I could have more inputs. And then I started running into clients and people that wanted to learn how to use it. And then I did some installs. So as my life progresses, that is the continual filter. And that's why I have this channel going. That's why I do the videos I'm doing. And that's why it's compelling for me to potentially get this device to train on. But let me make this clear. My preference tonight would be a 16-channel version. And I think that we'd have more outputs, which would answer my question. It's going to be a bigger panel. That's what I would wait because it's a bigger hole in my new desk. And so I'm hoping that they might announce a bigger version of this very soon. We'll see. You can look at the timeline back, how quick they went from the ATEM Mini to the ATEM Mini Pro to the Pro ISO, the Extreme and Extreme ISO, then the SDI model. So you kind of know at the pace Blackmagic Design is moving. And I do think that we got some hints at how they're thinking because, again, go back and listen to Grant as he opens up the live stream. So, and just to make it very clear, before we dive into, we go back to their homepage, products, home, the video.
I'm great.
I'm going to hit pause, and then I'm going to go to a different me and my laptop. So there's Grant, and this is the moment in the video, right in the beginning I'm talking about. I'm not going to play it live. I don't want to get flagged or get in any trouble. And I already got these crazy alerts popping up on my screen. But there's Grant. I could take this full screen, and if I was to play here, he explains the why from his perspective. And I've already shared with you guys the why from my perspective. So I'm running Grant's why through the matrix right now of my brain, my why, Studio B, which looks like it's very close coming down the road. And so now I have to kind of figure out for my clients, Am I going to be doing, is this the perfect device for installs? And I think the 8-channel device is. So do I purchase one for my client and make a deal with them to let me play with it for 2 or 3 weeks and then install it in their venue? Do I replace some of the installs I've already done with that device? Does it simplify things? Does it have advantages in it? So let me just real quickly talk about what I think are 5 of the advantages that are available in this new device. Okay. Number 1, all the buttons are there. There's a lot more control with both audio, camera control. It's visual. When you're EQing, you want knobs, not mousing around. There's a lot more speed available in this device because of how it's designed. And it's not super large. So that would be reason number 1. The fact that you have the ability, if you go cameras, Blackmagic cameras, you have the ability to, it simplifies the hookup. And they're not super expensive. So you think about what you're going to invest in one of these cameras. I'll just throw it back up here on the screen right on top of me. You're not spending that much money, right? So the Pro is $24.95. So I'm not sure how that's not very feasible for some of my clients. Some of my clients spent, by the time they bought lenses, they were $1,900 into a Sony a6400. You could obviously get cheaper cameras like the Sony ZV-1. There's the Canon cameras. You could buy an older EOS R like I have right here. This is a EOS R camera 1 that I could cut to. So it might be a solution for some of these venues, but a Blackmagic camera just gives you more intuitive control. So now you can do talkback. So you're talking about more of like a $10,000 to $15,000 basic budget. And I've had some of the venues that I've worked with start with $3,000 or less. They don't even have HyperDecks, or they already had equipment and we added a HyperDeck to record to and a web presenter to stream through, just to give them dedicated devices to either play back or record to that are integratable with Blackmagic design. So again, I think there's a lot of stuff here that we will be able to talk about in the weeks to come. And obviously, those of you that are on live with me know that I have some decisions to make. Okay. I don't even know where to start in this chat, but I'm going to do my best. Yeah, they are RTMP, so I would assume that they could stream to any RTMP location. But again, that right now is something I'm still learning about and is a little bit over my head, but you're probably right, Joe. So, yeah, Freddie, if you went through those converters, then yeah, you would be able to. Now, the Rodecaster Pro is not going to communicate via MADI. I'm talking about coming out of the Rodecaster Pro, which would be where you'd normally plug into your studio speakers. And you and I have talked about that. We've shared diagrams back and forth. Instead of going to the 2 XLR inputs in the back of this new television studio, or to the little RCA hookups, the little red and white, you could go into one of those converters, 2 of the inputs in that, 1/4 inch from your Rodecaster Pro, 1/4 inch into that device, and then you would go SDI out of it over to the console, the television studio, into that MADI input, and you would then be able to have Rodecaster Pro audio coming in. And again, you're going to be going into top-notch analog to digital converters inside that device. And again, to make it very clear, this is that device. So again, very, very high-end ADC, right? 8 ADACs, right? 4 for input, 4 for output, 2 for converting digital to analog, and vice versa, I believe. But again, don't quote me. I literally am still learning about this device and what you're able to do, but it's got some very good preamps built into it. Should be very stable. I can control it through the audio inputs in the device and bank over to it. He demonstrates banking over to the inputs that are in that device, so I can actually control the audio levels from that device, which you think about that, that's really, really, really important when you're wanting to control a stream. So from that console, I could reach out through that MADI SDI there and back, and I would be able to communicate with that device, and I could add four more mics just by daisy chaining. So under the desk, I could have 4 and then another 4 with a short little SDI cable, and now I have 4 microphones, 8 microphones. So I could have 8 people on a stage doing an interview and running that in to that console so one person could manage that show. Now, it gets harder and harder when you're mixing audio live and you're mixing video, so you do have the ability to output to another console, and you could have someone sitting next to you managing all that audio as well. So great question, great comment. Maddie is used a lot in professional audio, says our buddy Jay, and that is true. And obviously, it's going to be something that all of us are going to be talking about more and more with Blackmagic Design. Tony says, I can't buy this. Yeah, so I would probably, Jay, that's a good conversation maybe we should talk about. It's supposedly you're supposed to be able to put a professional talkback system in this device, so you would know more about that. Grant talks about it towards the very end as he's talking about the converter, so evidently you know more about that. The Ethernet ports are just mainly, it's like a switch, so you have a switch built in. So Grant plugs the internet into one, he plugs his laptop into another, and then he's able to communicate back and forth. And so basically you could plug a hyperdeck in, or a shuttle and a hyperdeck. And so all the internet comes into the switch and then out from that switch to those devices. And then you could probably daisy chain another switch. So again, that has a switch built into it. You can buy one of those for like $39 at Best Buy here in the United States. So it's not a real expensive device, but it's built in. So for a mobile recorder, you can have an M.2 2 terabyte chip built into it. You have the ability to play stingers up to 400 frames, 30 frames per second, 200 frames at 60 frames per second, 2 media pools for still images, and then you could have a hyperdeck or a shuttle playing back video. And the hyperdeck, obviously, with key and fill, would be able to play animated, transparent graphics, and you would have the ability to do that. Just keep in mind that if you're not using the internal 400 frames or 200 frames, using the stinger function or using the internal playing function, then you're going to have a hyperdeck or a shuttle plugged in. The new shuttle is HDMI out only, so you would have to convert that to bring it into these new devices. But the hyperdecks all have SDI key and fill out, so that would go right into 2 of the channels in the back of this new device. And if they come out with 16 channels, I'm in. I think there's so much to this device. I think there's some things it can improve. I think they should have built a hyperdeck into it. Maybe when they get to a 16 channel version, they'll throw in a hyperdeck, a built-in shuttle. Think about, they could build the shuttle right into the top of it. Would that not be cool? Teleprompter. Blackmagic, are you listening? I don't know, but do it, man. Do it. Add in a shuttle right in the top, but add key and fill. Build in a hyperdeck with a little teeny screen. Yeah. RJ jacks from Neutrik are awesome. Yeah. And then again, those jacks, let's bring it up on the screen because this is a good conversation. Those of you that get lost. Here we go. So right in the back there, you can see there's a hole with 3 little dots around it. That means that you can plug in a regular XLR jack, and that's got 3 little deals in it. Let's see. Do I dare? Let me mute this microphone and pop this out. Can I do this? Yeah, I can. So I'll come back on camera here. So this is XLR. So not really focusing on it. So this is my boom mic. I've had this for a long time. This was my talkback mic. It's flexible on that end. It's flexible on this end. So I could plug this in the back of a console like the one we're talking about. This is an Audio-Technica, very high-end condenser microphone. Now this one needs phantom power, and I did not see phantom power built in. Let's look at the back of that device. I might be talking too quick here. Yeah, I don't think there's phantom power built into there, but there is. Maybe there is. Correct me, guys, if I'm wrong. I don't remember him saying, I'm still wrapping my head around this, but my console in my recording studio had a talkback mic. This is my talkback mic. And then the artists and I could have a conversation. They had a microphone. I had to have headphones on, but I was in the control room, so I had speakers on, right? And so my talkback mic was right there all the time. I could push the talkback button, which you can do now on this console, and I can talk to the control room or the recording room or the studio room or the studio. And so this is the perfect mic. And again, this is got a little wind thing on it to protect it from the P's and the plosives, but this is a perfect mic, and I can plug this in the back of my console. So sometimes in my consoles, I don't want to deal with a lapel mic, which I have on, or this microphone. I just want to talk to someone. I can use this in channel 2 of my Rodecaster Pro. I have phantom power on, and I can unmute that and use this microphone anytime. And I've demoed this before in a live stream. So again, that's going to be available, phantom power, in these devices. So they do have phantom power built into them. So any one of these can be line, any one of these can be a regular XLR condenser mic. And the difference between a condenser microphone and a dynamic microphone is dynamic microphones typically need no phantom power, no voltage. There are some mics out there that do need some voltage, like 5 amps and stuff. But 48 volts of phantom power is for a condenser microphone. And a condenser microphone, this is a dynamic, this is a condenser microphone, so they're not specific sizes. It's the condenser inside of it. They're a lot more sensitive. This is going to pick up more of the the big diesel truck driving by, or my neighbor when he fires up his diesel truck 10 feet away from this wall right here. That would come through this a lot more than it'll come through this dynamic microphone, the SM7B by Shure, which is a great dynamic microphone. It sounds great, but I need to be close where I can be this far away from this mic. So in reality, I can talk to this microphone this far away and it will work fine. Obviously, I get more room noise the further away I am. So if I want to get right here, like on a podium, this is also the microphone that they plug into like wood podiums in hotels and all that. And if they have this mic, I'm always impressed. It's a great sounding microphone, an amazing sounding microphone. So my talkback in my studio was not weak, neither were the headphones. So very articulate, good basic EQ response, a little boost in the mid to help them understand what you're saying. So yeah, so lots of things that we can do with that. So I just want to touch on these cameras real quickly. Actually, probably not throw that on the screen at the same time with me. So let me do it this way. Oh, where is that? Time for slideshow and me. So you have a program button. So if you're sitting back program, you can see program when you're using this camera. You have the tally light so they know what's live. There's just a lot of cool things about this. The LCD screen's built in. It does better in low brightness. They also have a little cover that goes over it that's detachable so that you can use this in a bright room or outdoors. So there's just a lot of cool things about these cameras, the fact that you have the EF mount. It's a little bit bigger. It has ND filters built into it, and Grant demos those, controlling them from the front of the console. He can actually change ND filters. So let's say the sun is changing, you're doing a shoot outside, and all of a sudden it's not as bright. You could dial back an ND filter right from the console. There are so many advantages to this LCD screen. You can bank over audio. So just because you only have 8 channels, right? And you can have different things grouped too. So you don't have to have channel 1's gain right above it. You can have different things there. It's assignable. You can bank over and have more than just the 8 audio channels. So that's where you would use the MADI for. So I could have 8 channels of audio coming in from my cameras, right? So I could use those to bring audio in, right? I could have one of the converters out there bringing 4 more microphones in. I can adjust the cameras right above each of the knobs. I could bank over then and control the little converter device. So I have so much control built into this device. So I could go way beyond 2 people, way beyond 4 people. And so pretty incredible with what this new tool can do. And we haven't even really touched the buttons on the front. You have a program row and a preview row. So if you look on the front of my Extreme here, let's bring in camera number 3 here in Super Source. Let's see, that is this rot here. So you can see right here that this one I have set to cut. So this changes the program. It won't change what's in my live stream because I'm coming through the HDMI outputs. I'm not showing you guys the program. I'm not streaming from it. I'm using the 2 HDMI outs to send any one of these. So I'm cutting red to red to red. But on this one, it's camera 1, right? So right now, Super Source is live right here, and it's preview is green, and I don't have a separate row for green. So this one is green and this one is red, and I can cut between them. And if I want to cut to camera 2, I got to light it up green. This would be preview row. And then this red represents program row. So now I'm cutting from camera 2, which is the same camera I'm in right here. Now I'm full screen, and now back to Super Source. What I wanted to point out here is that this device actually has a preview row, which is on the bottom. You see the green button there, right down there. And then it has a program row. So now you have a ability to see what more visual ability to separate the two. So this is what I will have when I do this live show on Sunday. I will be able to have a console that is hooked up to the 8K, right? Which is rack mounted. And they only stream 1080p, and their cameras will do 4K. Some of them will do 6K, but we'll only broadcast at 1080p. But I'll be able to see what I have live on the top row there. And then below that, I'll be able to see what I'm about to go live with. And then I have the multi-view up on top that shows me all the cameras so I can see what they're looking at. Is their shot ready? And then in the headset, I can communicate with them and say, okay, I want you to do a pull, and ready, set, cut. They see their light go green. They know they're go from green to red, the tally light. They know they're live. And then they pull back with their zoom from close up to wide, and we can produce that shot. But I love the luxury of being able to see that. Now I can see that in the control software. And I promise you guys here real quickly, we will stop and chat and take some questions. But right now, I just want to show you that in the control software, I have the row of preview here, and I have the row of program here. And if I was to size this and lose the crop, you can see that SuperSource is live, and this is what I'm cutting to. And if I hit the auto button, and I'll do it here in the software, or I run the T-bar, which this has a T-bar, I can cut and see it go from green to red and the top go from red to green. It's hard to see because I'm cutting away before it goes green up there on the top because of the dissolve. And if I want to cut directly from those, I can hit cut right here, or I can hit the auto button and set the timer. Instead of 15 seconds, I can change this to 5 seconds. And now as I make this auto transition, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, I've cut to that and back to a 50-second transition or a second and a half. I'm perfectly fine with that. So you can see this software gives me more visibility than the front of a ATEM does. And so I want to see more than just these buttons when I'm trying to produce a live, I'm talking to people, I'm watching monitors, and every cut or transition counts. It's going to be really, really nice to have the ability to have a console like that. So in the studio, if I was going back and forth between two rooms, or I was trying to run a live show for someone, it's going to be nice to have a console like that. So keep that in mind. Okay, so as I promised, we're going to go back to the chat. And so let's get back in here. So the audio box is pretty cool. That might get used a lot in big production. So yeah, Blackmagic Design mic converter is a hack of a lot cheaper than one from RMI. Okay, that's good to know. DJ Ware. So obviously they got their learning from someplace, and it sounds to me like it's an RME. Now, if you know RME, I used to have RME converters. They have some high end, a lot of audio files. People who absolutely love high-end audio use RME for their headphone monitors, for their in-studio speakers. And so what DJ Ware is talking about is high-end audio. RME has been around a long time. So go ahead and Google RME, and Google converters or audio interface, or because they make some interfaces as well. Can you plug in line level into the MADI box? I'm not sure yet. I think you can, because again, well, line level, I believe, into the converters, the MADI input into the console, I think you can, because if you remember inside the control software, I'm back here again. See, I want you guys to see my laptop, and let me convert back here to SuperSource. We'll leave that on the air. So if you go in here to microphone audio, you have the ability over here in general to choose between line, microphone, and somewhere down the road, they added this microphone plus plug-in power normal. I think this is like 5 volts or something like that for specific gear. I'm not quite sure. I don't use that gear, but I do know that this was not here when I first started using the control software. And so I would think that you would be able to choose line level or mic level, but you're talking about all of the channels inside. And I don't know. I'll have to find out, do some more research to answer that question. So again, I hope that helps answer that question, Tony. I'm not sure, Freddie, this is the best way. I think you could go right through the RCA hookups to save a lot of money. You're just going to buy a 1/4 inch to RCA. I know my local music store sells those. On one end, it's 2/4 inch when they're in stock. There's been a lot of hard time getting inventory. So the last time I was in there, they had limited supplies. But usually when I walk in there, I think I have one in one of my boxes from my studio. But 1/4 inch right and left, to RCA right and left. Could go right from the Rodecaster Pro in there. You would want to switch in that same setting I just had up on the screen to what did I do here? Super source. Don't want to fade to black. Want to go to super source here. Right here is where you'd want to change which microphone. You have mic input 1 and mic input number 2. You would go to line in, and you'll have those same choices in this new device in the software. Because again, they have 2 mic inputs. They're XLR now. They have no 1/4 inch. They're only XLR. And again, XLR is like the back of this one. 3 little dots is XLR, not 1/4 inch. And so you would have to change it from the Rodecaster Pro to line level, because out of the Rodecaster Pro is line level because it's designed to go to speakers. So you can go to a amplifier to speakers or to a powered speaker. Like my JBLs, Freddie, are powered. My subwoofer and my JBL regular speakers are powered. That means they have an amplifier built into them. And when you have a recording studio, some people have a amplifier that powers all their studio speakers. They might have 4 different sets of studio speakers. So different quality to listen to what their mix sounds like. But in my studio, I had 2 sets of powered speakers, and I used my HOSA to switch between my sub on and off, my set of JBLs, and my set of Wharfdales, so I could listen to what flat speakers sounded like with no EQ, and then Wharfdales, which were more like house stereo system speakers. So they had a little boost at the mid frequencies. And so I could really tell what my recording was going to sound like. So, okay, I do want to wrap this up and not stay with you guys here all night. So let me just fast forward here and see. I know our new guest, let me go all the way back up here. I don't really have time to do this demo. Let me get back up here. Where is it? It was, see, Joe, you were asking about how to do macros. I do have a demo. I will link it in the description below on how to do macros. I will just say this real quickly, just because I don't want you to think that I don't care. So let me open up macros here and bring them over here real quickly. And let me talk about this real quick. I'm not going to do a complete macro demo because I'm using my macros live. And so it's hard to all of a sudden start changing settings. So let me pop this off the air. But this is what he asked earlier tonight. Let's see if I can get this on the air here. He was asking for this, please, a step-by-step config of macros with animations. So the first thing I'd have to know, are you animating HyperDex? Are you using ATEM Mini Pro ISO? Because what you're animating could be a key, flying key animation, because the flying keys in your software can fly around the screen to a full screen location, to 2 other locations, and you can either zoom them out and zoom them in. But again, that's just going from point A to point B to point C. And so you got A location, B location, and C location. And basically what that looks like, if you're in the software, if you're in a key, right up here, you go down here to flying key, and if you turn flying key on, then basically you can fly to A location, B location, and you can set those, and then full is always going to be a full-size graphic. And so you can enable flying key, and you can actually then program this into a macro. So when you're creating a macro under the create screen, you hit the plus icon, you name it, you start to record, and now you need to go through the settings of your control software. So if you want to be on camera 2, you got to click on camera 2. If you want key 1 on the air, right, you got to turn key 1 on the air. If it's already on, you're going to have to go off and on again because the macro doesn't know it was on. So everything you do, including the flying key boxes over here. If you're going to need it pre-multiplied, which means there's a key and fill channel coming in to key number 1, you're going to have to turn it on and program all of those in. What's the input in key number 1? Right up here, I have media player 1 set. My macro doesn't know I have media player 1 set, so I'm going to have to go away from it and back to it. Away from key and back to it. Now my macro will know that I want my media player 1 fill in slot 1 and the media player key fill in slot 2. If I want to use the DVE, I got to go over here to DVE, and you can see it puts my control software on the screen because under DVE, I have laptop selected. If I want camera 3 selected, I'm going to have to turn camera overhead 3 on so it knows to choose that input, and then I could actually create a shadow, turn the shadow on and off. I have to tell it what color shadow I want down here, and border. I can turn border on and off. I have to do all that and program all that in my macros. And then if I want that sucker to fly, right, then I'm going to have to turn flying key on the air. And if I want it to go full screen, I'm going to have to tell it I want it to be at A location first. So I'm going to fly to A while I'm programming my macro. And then I'm going to fly to B right here while I'm programming my macro, and then full. And if I don't like those locations, I'm going to have to fly it back to where I want it, size it all the way back, and then I'm going to have to set right down here a new set A location. And now I have to fly it where I want it to go. So fly to B. And now my macro is going to fly to that location, but I got to create a pause so it knows to fly it to A. Then I hit pause in the macro recording that's right up here when you're recording a macro. And then I'm going to record a 1 frame pause or 1 second pause or a 2 second pause, however long I want to do it. And then I'm going to fly to the new location. All of that has to be programmed in to these macros, and that's where things get a little crazy when you're recording macros. So, and so that's not a quick tutorial that I can do in a live stream. When I train people to do that, it takes me a while. If you'd like a free consult, go to my webpage. I'll put a link in the description. Request a free consult. We can talk about what your struggles are. As long as we can communicate in English, then I would be able to actually show you how to do that in a Zoom consult, and that's free. The first hour is always free. And then if you want to sign up for some mentoring, we'll talk about those programs when we get together in that event. So that's Zoom. Okay, so let's go back to Mina logo. Let's turn chat on the air. Oops. Let's hit chat on the air, and let me just get back here and we'll wrap this up quickly. Oh, did I just see this? I did. Sorry so much. Let me get this. Wow. I am so sorry. Let me use, man, I am totally having trouble controlling my chat right now. I see some super chats here. I want to acknowledge them. I'm so sorry for not acknowledging those. Thank you, DJ Ware. I appreciate it very, very much. I do not have my fireworks set up. I got to fix some links in. So normally I would have fireworks going on the screen. So thank you so much. And I hope that can help me get an ISO. We'll see. And then AK Polka, thank you so much for that super chat. Again, guys, that means a lot to me. No question there, but thank you so much for that. Let me just see if I miss any other super chats. I am so sorry. It's been a while since I've had them, and I've had 3 tonight. So thank you so much. And again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. I do really appreciate every single subscriber that means a lot to me. So thank you so much. Let me just look here, get caught up with the questions here. You could go straight to a new TV studio from the RCP. No need for the MADI box. The RCP outputs line level, so it isn't utilizing the preamps in the MADI box. Yeah. So again, I can go directly into my ATEM right now. I'm going from 2 1/4-inch cables to a single 3.5 millimeter stereo input. Set it to line level. You should be able to go right from 1/4-inch to XLR in those 2 mic inputs, and then you can go into the software and stereo them right and left. If you want to kind of pan the stereo show right and left, you can do that, because it would sound a little bit weird if you kept those both centered. I would go over about 30% with that setup. I think I need to study more. Cool, Freddie. Yeah, what they did is they bought a used setup from a church in Redding, California. The pastor has a relationship there. They were paying some mentoring from that church in Redding. And so what happened is that they were offered this whole kit. So they got used cameras. I think they got 3 Blackmagic design cameras, a couple of HyperDeck minis, which just record up to 4K, 30 frames per second. They got the 8K Constellation, even though they're not doing any 8K. And so they actually they record to a HyperDeck, only the program. So there's a lot of updates they can do. They don't have any ISO recording, and they have a second HyperDeck as a backup. If one fails, they loop into one HyperDeck SDI in, and then their SDI out to the other HyperDeck, and both of those they record from the control software. So when I do that mix, I will be recording to 2 HyperDecks, and we will be doing the mixing in, I forget what console it is. I think they have the 1ME console. It communicates with the 8K rack-mounted device. And again, they're not even using anywhere near the device that they have. But the church back in my county have to use a megaphone and cardboard for the host. Wow. It's not a lower thirds deal. So you can do a lower third like this through the media player. Again, the media player is this right here. Here's your media player. In an extreme, you have 1 and 2, and both of these can come on the air right now. So I could choose them right here live. But again, this one's pre-multiplied. So you wouldn't bring them on that way. You would actually bring those on through a key. So my lower thirds is coming in right here through key number 1, and that key is right here. So this key is turning on and off. I have it set to media player 1. Again, this is media player 1. Actually, it's not pre-multiplied. So if I make it pre-multiplied, it gets really weird. That's why you saw it. So it's not pre-multiplied. If it was pre-multiplied and I turn it on and off the air, you wouldn't get this weird result right here. But we are getting that weird result because I didn't create it. So that's just a still graphic. It doesn't move around the screen, though I can fly it with the flying key. So I can fly that key around and animate it. So I could go full. I could go to point B, point A. So it's normally full when I have it on and off the air. So I could program a macro to fly that around using that. Again, that's all through the key because it has a flying key feature. If I turn flying key off, it's just going to default to full position. And so you can do animations that way, but I'm talking about HyperDeck. So you have a stinger that you can do to run across the screen, and I have my stinger, but it's not set up to run tonight, and that's the high transition. So if I was going to go from this view to this view, I could have a stinger play across the screen like you've seen me for, and then hide the transition, and that would be more for like a hard cut from one camera to the other camera. then I could use that animation and then cut behind it. Then you also have the ability to use that center bar to transition from one camera to another camera. And again, that's found over in your keys. And again, I don't have enough time tonight to dive into that. Unit equals 1. Yeah, churches have lots of money if they have lots of donors. So if people are carrying the ark together with the staff, then and everybody is donating. But during COVID, obviously, you saw a lot of people staying home, and that really made a big impact. Where this particular venue was getting ready to do a remodel, they had been saving for a long time. They took most of that money and they put it into this streaming kit, because they knew during that lockdown, that shutdown, that they were going to have to probably stream, right, 6 feet apart with a speaker, no one in the auditorium. And they did that, but they got technical and they really did a good job about it. And they've gotten better and better equipped. And remember, I helped them build a mobile camera for backstage. It is a 6K Pro Blackmagic, not the new version, but the cinema camera, and it's on a DJI RS3, I believe, and it has a Spark Teradek wireless transmitter mounted to it, and then a receiver in the control room, and then that's sent up through fiber upstairs to where I'm going to be. I'm literally going to be behind the balcony in a room, so I won't even be in the auditorium. I'll literally be in a room on the other side of a hallway behind the balcony wall. So you're not inside the venue at all. You're there, but you're definitely not inside. And there'll be 3 people in the room with me probably during that event, unless they're worried about the job I'm going to do. And then there'll be that person that might be helping me over my shoulder. So anyway, okay. So even 12 inputs would be nice. I agree. Every time I start to pull the trigger on a Blackmagic gear. Oh, why am I not showing these on the air? I agree with that, Tony. 12 inputs would be great. Every time I start to pull the trigger on Blackmagic gear, they offer new stuff. I believe that's true. Life Journey Church. No, this church is called Life. Let's see. Life Church 7. And the 7 represents the 7 local cities, because they're all separate cities. We could be a giant city, but every city has its own mayor and its own government. So it's called Life Church 7. It's my parents' church. And my son was going there playing on the team. And Shannon and I decided to go there to support him. New baby, new wife. And we just wanted to be there as a support and be in the crowd cheering him on when he plays drums or plays guitar. So you could actually go back and watch some videos and see my son playing drums. I think he played at a morning service about 3 weeks ago. Maybe I'll show a clip of that in the future. Thank you, Freddie. I try to be funny at times. New cameras in Jay's world are $18,000. Yeah, I know. I've been in TV studios, both on this side of the camera, and I've been in the studio and seen their devices. And I even I did some live mixing and some recording in a TV studio years ago, and had my broadcast license for a short period of time. How do you monitor your audio and no headphone jack? How do you monitor your audio with no headphone jack? Well, I'm assuming you're talking about a Rodecaster Pro. It has headphone jacks. The new Extremes have a headphone jack. But your audio in the new consoles, Freddie, that's a great question. You're going to probably have to have one of those talkback sets, because that jack will give you both talkback or give you audio. So you have a professional headset, and then you have the talkback microphone to talk back. So you're going to have to use that new headphone jack. And I believe that in this picture, let me drop that in. You can see on the far right, let me go to full screen so I can see this. You have the 5-pin talkback headset. So connect only broadcast standard 5-pin talkback headsets. So my understanding, though I don't use those, that headset, why am I not going back to my camera? Because I threw that on top of everything. So you would be able to then use that talkback headset to hear what's happening in your audio. So that's an investment. I don't have one of those, and I'm not quite sure what set works. So that's going to be some research, and we're going to have to figure that out going forward. Let's blow through these. Blackmagic is becoming popular. A lot of people are switching to editing on Resolve. I agree with that. That's coming from Everyday J, which is TVJ. I've never seen such an, it's water tonight. HTO. The sweetener inside I've been kind of on a regiment, right? Getting in shape. Hopefully, if you go back about 6 weeks, my face is skinnier. It's not the lens I'm using. That's water. And I'm trying to stay away from some of the artificial sweeteners because I was actually I came back really sore. And it seemed like every time I would pound away a bunch of those drinks or Coke Zero, I was starting to have aches. And I started to see that the trend was a 42-ounce Coke Zero, pain all afternoon. So I've cut out that artificial sweetener. And again, almost all sugar, unless it's in a spice or a sauce that I'm throwing on. Almost all fruit because of the content. Because again, ever since I experienced COVID, I started having allergy issues again, and I'm just tired of dealing with it. So you've seen bandages on my hands, and so I've tried to cut all that stuff out, and maybe that's too personal for all of you guys, but it is. So I wanted to give you an update only because a lot of you may wonder what happened. I took my dad to see his brother. My uncle passed away on Sunday. Just get that out there. So I was a little discombobulated Saturday and Sunday and Monday, which is yesterday. And then this announcement. So if I'm not totally up to speed on some of this gear like you would expect, I hope you'll cut me a little slack. But also, I just wanted to let everybody know. Thank you so much. Some of you sent me notes. I appreciate it so much. I did pass that on to my cousin and told him that some of you guys even gave a shout out. Some of you even said you would pray for my uncle and for his family. So again, that's gone, that's happened. And I appreciate you guys' response to that. I have 3 of the Blackmagic Design studio cams, but the previous models, they are great. Wish the autofocus was better though. So does Tony. Yeah, I do. I know a lot of you have these cameras. See you, Jay. Thank you for being here. I think you popped back in as Everyday Jay. Yeah, again, lots of comments here. Cobweb eyes. I have my other glasses on so I can see the monitor as well. It's now a 7-inch, which really helps me see better when I have writing on the wall or my teleprompter up there. The church has now the Blackmagic 6K Pro, a couple of the 4K cameras prior to the newer versions that you just saw an update to. I forget what those are called. They have 2 of those, and then they're still using, I think, a Sony camera on the far right. And then they have an upstairs camera. I think it's a Sony as well. So 2 of those need to be replaced. We already replaced the back of stage camera, and then they moved that back of stage camera over on the side so you had a side shot all the time. Again, they have an 8K, so they're not throwing these cameras away. What they're trying to do is get away from the Sony latency. So the Teradek Spark was literally designed to get a back camera on the drums, because when he's hitting the drums, the latency was showing up in all the videos. He was off the sound. So that was what we were solving. They also wanted to be mobile. So they actually have a little waist strap with a little adapter in it. I bought one of those for my trip. It just straps around your waist, and then you can set the DJI Ronin S's in that to rest your arms. But it's not really good for them to get the full use of a gimbal, because those gimbals really need this gimbal right here, which is your elbows. So keep that in mind if you ever buy one of those rests. And I've watched them use that. I'm supposed to go do some training. So hopefully as I get involved, I'll do some free quick training to let them know that when they are getting those really stable shots, they need to be out of that harness. And then when they're just zooming in on the drums or doing a close-up on the keyboard, they can then use that harness, because it actually pivots in and out like this, but it doesn't do any of this. And again, it's adding some body shake to that gimbal, and it's not meant to do that. So either put it in one of those spring harnesses or one of the hang over your head harnesses, or get it out and use this built-in arm harness. Same way we carry a cup of coffee, you can learn to use that extra gimbal built into your body. That's why I came back with my back hurting so much, because I was only resting between shots. The rest of the time I was holding my Canon 5D Mark IV, a monitor on the gimbal, my little Portkeys 5.5-inch monitor with a big battery on it. Again, it got really heavy, so I just wore my back out. I recently added an A10 Mini Pro Extreme to my video setup. Keith spent 2 hours helping me through the process. I want all of you to know what a wonderful resource from friend Keith is. Thank you so much, Hank. Just wasn't super comfortable earlier. I did mention that you wanted that. Thank you so much for your super chat. I don't think you were here earlier, so I'll pop that up there right now. Thank you so much for that. And it was awesome getting a chance to be on that Zoom call with you. And I lost track of time because we were really trying to get things working in your studio. One of my favorite moments was the fact that you had been on the phone with Blackmagic Design and they couldn't figure out why your multi-view wasn't working. And you had a splitter, and all I had you do is disconnect from the splitter, because your Extreme has 2 HDMI outs, and we had you plug one of the HDMI cables into monitor 1 and then your other cable into monitor 2. And I don't know if you ever got monitor 2 working over on your green screen, but it was so cool to see you get excited when your multi-view came on for the first time. I think that was the first multi-view that you had. Then we set it up because you have 16 different things in your multi-view that you can make live. And so thank you so much, not only Hank, for mentioning that in the chat, and also for you giving me that super chat. That means a lot to me. Okay, so if you need to go, I understand. I just do not want to not get to some of these chats. If I could just get this thing to mind me tonight. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. 2 hours isn't bad for a complete setup. Thanks. I agree with Hank. He is an awesome friend. Thank you, Freddie. That's so sweet. Stop and think. Agreed, Hank. Good-hearted, genuine human being. Thank you, guys. You would want balanced audio out from the RCP. Be careful not to use an instrument cable. Yeah, you definitely want balance. Balance really this basically means that there's more things grounding your signal, so that any long run, the shorter run you can be, the better, going from your console to the Rodecaster Pro. I use the Hosta cables. But yeah, if you're unbalanced, you're going to start in getting a hum, and then you're going to have to use some of the features inside your control software to begin to get rid of some of that noise by using the audio features in there. So left LLC of 2 new Blackmagic cameras. If you were to get one, which would you choose? If I was to get one, 100% the new camera they just released, Tony, because I would probably use it remotely from Studio B, remotely to that console once I get it. Again, the attraction to me, man, I got so much I still would like to say here. before I talk about that, I believe that podcasting, video, and audio is going to explode still. Right before COVID, podcasting audio was blowing up. Then everything changed. People were locked down. They were still consuming podcasts, but then people were having to use webcams, and you saw lots of things change as Blackmagic started using that opportunity to create the A10 Mini and be able to use it as a webcam. Then they came out with the Pro and added recording, and it's just progressed from there. Even this new console can be used as a webcam. So two USB-Cs out. One could go to a disk. You can now record inside it and then have it automatically sync with the cloud. And then you also have another SDI out or USB-C out that you can use a webcam. So you could use that console for Zoom. You could do a whole Zoom presentation. So if you go to their website, guys, you're going to see so much on their website about how you can use this new device. So, okay, so hopefully I put that up on the screen. I vaguely remember that. DJ Ware also agrees with stop and think. Thank you, DJ Ware. Excellent point. Balanced audio out always. Why? Thank you, Tony. Can I buy this gear now for my good point? Yeah, you can buy the gear now for your good point. And again, shout out to Joe. I'm actually looking into a Free World monitor that he just graciously sent to me. So thank you, Joe. I've gone from 5 inches to the Free World. I do miss my audio meters that were in my BenQ, but I do have audio meters right here, just off camera, and I can constantly see them going up. So I don't really need the audio meters. So again, thank you so much. It's a better version of the confidence monitor for me. I do want to go to 10-inch here eventually. Both of those monitors that I have in here now, I'll eventually will move to Studio B. So like Joe wrote, you missed 2 super chats from DG Ware. Yeah, and thank you so much for pointing that out. Sorry, I'm so far back, but I did now acknowledge those. Thank you guys so much. Okay, so, man, guys, I don't know that we're ever going to get done here. Yeah, so I see that. I got two chats from Tony. Thank you, Tony. And I probably will make you a moderator, so you can just pop up the super chats, I think, from where you're at. So yeah, I'm not really passing the hat. There's been some talk about if I did anything like that, it would be a version of this and some mentoring and some working with young couples in marriage, learning communication techniques. Might even start like some entrepreneur training, people that go into sales. My youngest son is now have a business degree. So I just think I would want to do more something like that than like what Life Church 7 is doing. And again, don't get me wrong, I totally enjoy what they're doing. And but I do think there's some other things that our world needs as well. So I guess if there was an unlimited budget right now, that's the direction I'd probably go. And there are some churches that closed. So those buildings have certain advantages and certain disadvantages. The advantages I like, they almost all have a kitchen and an area so that you could serve food. For seminars, they usually have an auditorium. A lot of times they have a gymnasium. They also typically have classrooms. So there's a lot of already built-in things, sound systems. A lot of times they have acoustic treatment in the main venue. So you could do a lot of things in a building like that. So rather than an office complex that has nothing like that. So anyway, great idea. Just not sure what to do with that. Joe. So, I never seen Keith this wound up before. Sorry, guys. Let me just slow down and wrap this up. Wow. It's not alcohol. I'm just telling you. It's non-alcoholic. Okay. Well, guys, I may never, let me just make sure there's no more super chats. 5 to 7 inches is good. Again, thank you. Are the lenses you have EF mount? Yeah. So this is my 50 mil. This is a very expensive lens. I've used it occasionally in here, but yeah, this is the mount. This would be a great lens. All of my lenses are the older version, not the RF mount, the EF mount. And so all my lenses would be perfect for a Blackmagic design camera. How many monitors do you have planned for Studio B? 5. So 1 on each camera, a big multi-view, probably a BenQ. There's a new Dell out there, but it's not as powerful as the BenQ. And then, so, you know, each camera, I plan on eventually having 3 cameras out there because the plan is to actually create a podcasting stage and professional, good lighting. I mean, I really want, if I build this thing, I'm going to build it so you could go in there and do a 4-person podcast with great lighting and those 3 cameras. So you'd have 2 people on one camera, 2 people on the other camera when there's 4 and a wide shot. And then 3 people, you would have 1 on each person in a wide shot. And when there's 2 people, like my wife's podcast was, I would turn one of the cameras on me because I'm kind of a co-host off camera. But sometimes it's really cool to be on camera because people like to see my reaction, especially in Shannon's podcast, because they have topics that embarrass men. And I think the women love that. So 2 cameras. Are you using OBS or Wix for eCam? I'm using OBS to put Super Chat on the screen. And I can also bring on my Skycam right there. It's an OBS as well. 2 sources. So Aaron Parecki's chat plugin through Chrome is what I'm using to display full screen. And I bring this in through my key number 4. So you only see it right there. And I can bring that on and off the air. And then this is just coming right from OBS. It's full screen, but I have it sized down. So I could size it up as well. I wish there was a back button, but there's not because this was sized for my still image in the post show. So I'll turn that off the air and lock it for now. So, oops, turn chat. And then I got to transition away from that. So chat is coming through OBS. It's free. Why not use it? It does come through my desktop. So this is my PC coming into the monitor, and I can send OBS full screen to a monitor that's plugged into my ATEM. So my ATEM or my OBS sees this, and I can just broadcast to that monitor full screen, and I can turn chat off the air with a macro. So if I don't want chat up there, I can turn it off, and that's mainly for my Skycam because I can bring chats on and off the air with Aaron Parecki's chat function just by hitting clear. So it is hot in the studio, and that way you are trying to leave. Yeah, I'm burning up. Looking forward to seeing Studio B floor plans. Yeah, I'm working on that right now. Sounds like a great studio. It will be fun. Ratso will be doing lots of visits to Studio B, and I will be recording some shorts with Ratso on a green screen, and I probably will be using the new key device by Blackmagic Design, which we haven't really talked about, but Aaron Parecki got a loaner and did a couple videos on that keyer, and it just does a lot better key, and that's what I'll need because Ratso has a lot of fine hairs. So Ratso, will you be using Studio B? What mic? I'm going to have a SM7B in there as well, probably maybe 4 of these. I'll start with my my pod mics. I have 4 of these that I bought for my wife's podcast. I like these stands because they got like a rubber gasket on it, which cuts down on some of the vibration. But these are Rode Pod mics. They sound really good. And I've A/B'd these before. There's a video on my channel, so search for a Rode mic or Rode Pod mic, and you should be able to find a video on my channel where I compared the SM7B and this, and also a condenser microphone by Rode as well. So I have 4 of these, and I keep 2 over there because when my wife does her podcast, we bring them into the Snake, and I set up my table, and I rotate camera 2 over. So that camera is rotated over, pointing in their table. Sorry about that long transition. I should just cut. And then this monitor turns over, and I can change it to program so they can see themselves. So I can rotate this over. My hair light mini by Elgato rotates with it. So I'm not going to rotate because I mounted this to the back mount. So anytime I want to see a bigger version of what I have on the program, I change the matrix to a different input. That's HDMI out 1 of my Extreme ISO number 1. And so I can switch sources, camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, which is not live right now. That's my overhead camera that times out. Input 4, 5 is my desktop, which went into sleep mode. So that's the screensaver. And then that's the input that has the chat on it. And then I have 7 and 8. And if I hit play on 7 and 8, you would then see my logo, which is my HyperDeck. So I can change to multi-view. Here's a clean output, and then preview, and then I have multi-view and program out. So I can switch that. I wish I could have multi-view here all the time, but when I switch multi-view in the matrix, it goes away. So I can't change that. So I have 3 inputs. I bought a converter from DisplayPort to HDMI, and I'm probably going to run, I would like to get my HyperDeck shuttle to go up here, because then this would be a big teleprompter when we're at the table. So that's probably what I'm going to do here with input number 3, and I can switch inputs right here. So here's program only out, and then switch back. Here's the HDMI 1 input, and that's going to be multi-view right now. And then if I was to go over here, I have the DisplayPort, and that's going to be able to be switched to my shuttle. So back to the monitor question. I will probably have an MSI in there as well. I like the 3 inputs. So you got to get around that 2 are HDMI and 1 is DisplayPort. So again, that's perfect if you're going to go directly from a computer that has a DisplayPort. My son has an older PC. He updated. If you've been on my channel for a while, you know my son got an NZXT computer. So he's said I can use his older computer, which is really a nice computer. It's a nice PC. So I'm going to probably have that in Studio B. I will eventually get more of these SM7B mics. I don't know if I'll put them on boom arms. We'll see. You know, there's a lot of decisions to make in Studio B. I've never used StreamYard to answer that question. Joe, shorts with Ratso, can't wait. I can't wait either, because it's a lot more fun to pre-record them and practice and get them right. Before you go, can you show how you have the audio routed between the ATEMs? Sure. And then I think I'm going to wrap it up. So that's the final question. I'll go ahead and put that back on the screen here. I'm going to go remote. Let's see, me and I'm going to do me and the overhead camera. It's dead right now. And I'll just go into Super Source here and reassign it. Input number 2, I'm going to need, no, it's fine right there. And then I am going to go over into my software for my other Extreme ISO, and I need to go to output 1 and I need to make it Apple TV. And now I will cast my phone. So I'm casting my phone now to my built-in Apple TV in this room that's plugged in. So it's called Home Theater. So it should pop up here on the air if I did get it routed correctly. Yes, it did. And then I will go into an app called Filmic Pro. Oops, there's the chat. Let's go back to this view. I'm really glad that wasn't a picture of my underwear. Okay, you can see it right here. So here we go. We're going to start with the Rodecaster Pro. So let me switch back to Super Source here. The Rodecaster Pro comes out, and you can't quite see it, but there's a right and left out that comes into this HOSA switch. And actually, in reality, it goes out of the Rodecaster Pro to my subwoofer down here. And then my subwoofer has XLR outs. Those XLR outs then come into the switch. So all that's doing is feeding audio into this HOSA. And then out of this HOSA, you can see I have one output, one input in, and then I have 3 I can switch from. So channel 3 goes to input number 1 right here. Input number 2 is coming from the headphone out of my Extreme ISO number 1. And then you can see I have the DJI mic kit plugged into input number 2. So I also have the other output that doesn't go to my speakers in the studio as a backup. I have another HOSA 1/4 inch to 3.5 stereo jack. So I can switch over to channel 2, and channel 2 will bring the main audio from my Rodecaster Pro in here. So I could switch things up and go make this my main audio input because I'm feeding the headphone out into channel 2. So then I just make channel 2 live right here. So here's mic 1, which is on. I'd make mic 2 live, and that would be the headphone coming in. I would then enable that audio, which it is enabled, and then make sure that the audio on the headphones is live. And guess what? I have brought audio from my Rodecaster Pro into either device. I brought that audio from my Rodecaster Pro into my subwoofer, from my subwoofer back into the interface. Then it goes from the interface up to my studio speakers. And then the interface also switches to ATEM Extreme 1, input 1, and Extreme number 2, input 1, or mic input 1. They're both set to line. And then I have the headphone out of my new device, my new Extreme ISO. Because remember, I don't want headphones in both of them. I want to use one set of headphones in my first Extreme, and I want to hear the audio on both devices because I have a HyperDeck Mini and I have a HyperDeck Shuttle plugged into my new Extreme ISO, which is really number 2. So I need to hear the audio. I need to cue it, make sure if I'm going to show you guys a video in my HyperDeck Shuttle. And the reason I like my HyperDeck Shuttle is it has that ability to hit the jog and scroll wheel and scroll slowly. So if I had it live right now, I could cut to it, but I switched that out when I went to tether my phone. So now I can untether this because you can see it's still live behind me. And so I can have 2 inputs coming in at exactly the same time. And that's amazing. So that's it. I'm done. I'm spent. This is just water. I need to go eat some dinner. I need to study some more. all my part 107 training that I was going to do last week in the wind. Blackmagic stole all of that time. So thank you, Blackmagic Design, for these incredible tools. Thank you guys for having so many comments. There's no way I can catch up, but I will go back and read your comments, and hopefully next week I will have some help. We'll see. It's great to be here with you guys. It's great to talk to you about the why. I just want to make sure that no one forgets the slideshow that I gave you guys earlier. So I want to leave you with this thought. Please go back and read Grant's or listen to Grant's opening comments of why they made these changes, why they combined the rack-mounted version and the desktop versions into one portable device, why they added in the streaming bridges and the ISO, why they did all that, why they added this converter, why they added Maddie, because that's their why. That's why they came out with these new devices. Those new devices caused me to spend a lot of time learning them. I have a lot more to learn, a lot more videos to watch. I really want to hear what other people are thinking and saying, but that's my why. People gathering, having a conversation is crucial. What we're doing right now, learning and growing, learning new technology, keeping our brains working. I watched the Chris Hemsworth Disney documentary that has 6 sessions in it, and he knows that he has the potential of Alzheimer's. So he went on this journey with Disney and did a whole documentary where he pushed his body and to another level and learned some things about how to regenerate possibly the part of his brain that could eventually cause him to forget everybody in his family. This is Thor we're talking about, 40 years old approximately, in incredible shape, and yet wasn't using certain muscles. So check out that documentary. What a great journey. I watched that. That's hours of video with my oldest son, Christopher. We both were trying to grow and learn. He's almost 40. I'm almost 62. And we want to continue getting our bodies in shape. And so we discovered this documentary. So guys, that's my why. People are the greatest commodity. Having these tools are just vehicles to get somewhere. And if they're not getting you in front of people, if it's not helping someone, it's not building humanity, if it's not growing yourself and becoming better and expanding your horizons, like if you go to DJ Ware's YouTube channel, or you go to Tony's channel, or you go to Jay's channel, or you go to Joe's new Blue Iris channel, and lots of other people. Doug Force is often here. He just did a video on how to change out a faucet in your kitchen. I watched the whole thing. So there's so many things that we can learn and grow, and that is the end game. If it's the church venue, concert venue, if it's a business going live, if it's a salesperson learning how to go live from their phone, if it's a business person, if it's a motivator, if it's someone that wants to stream hockey, whatever your passion is, you know it's around people. So please never underestimate why I do this. That is my why. Everything will go through that filter. And so I will consider everything that you guys have said tonight. I will watch the chat back. I don't really want to listen to my video back, but I will watch the chat back so that I can glean all the things that I can possibly learn, because there's so much wisdom out there in the world that we're all a part of here on YouTube. And soon maybe I'll get back on streaming on Facebook. So thank you so much. My name is Keith. This is Life Journey Production Studios. I am more thankful. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for all of the things you do. I just want to scroll through here one last time, because if I miss a super chat, I will probably never forgive myself. So come on, help me here. I'm not sure I like this tablet anymore for this. Let me minimize this chat. Now I can see this bar. No more super chats, but some great stuff in here. So, Joe, I appreciate this very much. DJ Ware, very much. Thank you, Freddie. I really appreciate you guys more than you'll probably know. Great fellow creators. I'm not giving up on that part 107. I'm telling you, I am really, really wanting to do that. I want to expand my reach with doing video footage commercially. I want to learn how to be a better drone pilot. I really feel like it was an area of phobia for me because my son-in-law wrecked his drone right when we were out together. I felt horrible. And they didn't have the extra money to replace it. Just recently, like 3 years later, got another drone. So I'm just trying to get past, I'm trying to push past some of these soft barriers. So getting my part 107 will definitely be something that I'm going to share with all of you. So obviously my brain is doing gymnastics. So let me full screen this again and hit clear. And if you did give me a super chat and I missed it somehow, I'm forever apologizing. So I'm Keith. This is Life Journey Production Studios. I'm going to hit the mute and say goodbye. See you next week.